Welcome to our Summer Live series. We're excited to come together with our first topic tonight. Hello, Miss Polly.
Hey, good
Oh,
evening. Hi, Tracy.
hello. I'm
Oh,
excited for our first topic
I
tonight.
am too.
I was just getting
Um,
rolling with it.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
letting folks know that tonight's topic is when negative coping sneaks into early parenting. I know as a mom of littles myself, feels like a very relevant topic.
yeah,
And I feel like it's so prevalent in my therapy room. I don't know about you.
yeah, absolutely. I right now I'm seeing a number of folks who have littles under one, like maybe quite a few.
Yeah.
And it is such a big transition time for people, such a wonderful time, and then also very stressful and all the things, all the emotions that come along with having, yeah,
Yeah.
an infant or even just even and a toddler around.
Right, right.
Yes.
And what a good opportunity for us to get like the real dirty with it and just
Right?
give some space for that.
Yeah.
Before we dive too deep into it, just want to do the disclaimer that
Yeah.
although Polly and I are both licensed professionals, this does not constitute individual therapy or one-on-one, um,
Correct.
or take kind of like that therapeutic advice. So please, within this, take what is relevant to you and leave whatever does not serve you because,
Yeah.
as much as we want this to be an informational space for everyone, we know that this absolutely does not apply to everyone. So
Yes. Very
with
true.
that,
With
right,
that.
Polly.
Yes.
So I'm curious. I know this is a population you've been
Yeah.
working with. I know this is an area of my specialty. So curious, since you've been seeing a lot of this population recently, what are some common negative coping strategies that you're
Yeah.
seeing kind of sneak in this early parenthood phase in your practice?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the major ones that I'm seeing is substance use, and specifically, it's specifically easy to access alcohol. Um, and also, not just that, but also some things, some process addictions. I guess any way of numbing out and working at, escaping. Um, some of the challenges that come along with early parenting. So binge eating, a lot of screen time, like in a numbing out sort of way, gambling, um, yeah, it's all across the
Mhm.
gamut with it. Yeah.
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 What about you, Tracy? Um,
Totally.
yeah. Is
Yes.
it
So I think
familiar?
like
Yeah.
there are so many ideas around like negative coping that like I don't think people
Yes.
realize. And like honestly, and just reflecting on this for myself, and I have like a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home. Like I'm like, oh
Yes.
shit, this is me. So let me just
Yeah.
share my therapy that I need for myself in this
Yeah.
phase, right? But I think the biggest one that I think I see is like self-neglect, right? Of
Yes.
just, not eating at normal times, um,
Yes.
not showering regularly, not like prioritizing your own mental and physical needs. I know I'm guilty of this one, but it's
Yeah.
so easy, right? Because society says like prioritize, you come second, right? Like,
Second.
and
Yeah.
in reality, like, no, like
Yeah.
this is gonna add to like burnout, a higher risk of like illness, all of these
Yeah.
pieces, because really parenting is harder when we're not prioritizing ourselves first, so
Yeah.
that is, I think, the number one that I see all the time. And I think society kind of like normalizes it too. I think the other one that you had kind of mentioned is avoidance, like
Yes.
dissociation, scrolling on TikTok, binge watching
Yes.
TV, right? It
Yes.
feels easier to check out than to check in.
Yeah.
And this just leads to disconnection and increased loneliness.
Yeah.
And it makes parenting harder.
Yeah.
And the other big one that I see is just emotional suppression of not like allowing that full freedom of emotional experiencing. I think society kind of says like, what a beautiful time and all this time to connect.
Yeah.
And in reality, like not getting sleep fucking sucks,
Yes.
like not
Absolutely.
not getting to
Yes.
shower regularly,
Yeah.
not like feeling in your body, like all of
Yeah.
that stuff sucks,
Yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
think there's enough space to just be like, I'm struggling right now,
Yeah.
or to like feel okay about sobbing at 2 a.m. when you're trying to feed your baby and they're not latching, right?
Yeah.
Like, blah,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so just feeling what you need to feel, I think, suppressing that just leads to anger outburst, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. And the other piece of that too is that like all of these things, at least from my experience, and I don't know about yours, you can speak to this too, but doesn't just happen for like birthing individuals, right? Like
Oh,
this is like
yes.
non-birthing parents too.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I see that in the room with the men with whom I'm working with. I mean, it is such a big identity shift, too. It really can be. And even just looking at the scope of like, and that's over a couple, I want to honor that this isn't just like, the first 6 months. This can be over a considerable amount of time of a couple years to feel kind of grounded within oneself. And yeah, absolutely not just reserved to those who, the birthing parent at all.
Yeah.
And that really, I mean, some of the things that you're describing, it's like it's sort of survival mode. It's difficult for it not to feel like survival mode like all the time. Which, you know what, like maybe it is. Like
Right.
maybe it is. Like,
Maybe we're just surviving, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like normalizing that a little bit. Like, this is such an incredibly challenging time. And so it does make sense that people would, especially if people have like predisposition to like, if they already knew, yeah, I dabble in drinking, maybe a little bit in excess, and then a kiddo comes along and it ends up being the new coping skill. And I think this can be when we have like a little bit of self-knowledge and the ability to compassionately see this within
Hmm.
ourselves, that can be sort of this a starting point, because all behaviors are adaptive in some way, and what are ones that are going to lend themselves to thriving and to the long run. The other thing that I want to bring up is that like we can often like, well, the person with whom we are, connected and maybe and sharing in the experience of raising the kiddo, for those that are doing that, it can really feel like, um, across a room of like toys and diapers and time and like, hey, I miss you. You used to be like my, not used to be, but it has been a long time since you've felt like my person that I want to be attached to, I can be attached
Yeah.
to.
Prioritizing
Um,
that relationship just
yes.
out the window. Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's so little time I want to honor to get all of these things in. The
Hmm.
showers, the taking care of oneself, the relationship.
Right.
It is it's a challenging time that makes sense that these things would come up.
Totally. Yeah. So, what are some things people can do to help kind of if they're seeing these coping
Yeah.
strategies kind of like sneak in, or if like some of this is resonating, what kinds of things do you kind of recommend or work with people through?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the major ones, since we are social beings and that what we're really missing is some connection. So figuring out how to reach out for support. So if that's in terms of around substance abuse or just with, the folks, beloved ones like friends and family that are actually supportive, and even getting to say to one's like spouse, if you're sharing in that, or whomever partner, like, hey, I miss you. I miss that connection. So being able to kind of like cross those bridges, also like seeing what sort of semblance of self-care like could be restored. And I want to honor and acknowledge that looks very different um for everybody. When I was a new mom, I forget, but someone's like, you're never going to do that again. Whatever it was that I loved to do, I don't remember what it was, but that was only because that wasn't their self-care thing. Like
Hmm.
they love to knit and they love to read. For me, it was something else. And when I found that again, I was like, yeah, yes, I can. And also in working with folks in my room, just getting to really ask, like somebody was like, I just would really love to like do my hair and get my makeup on. That was like a
Yeah.
priority for them. And so, and you know, it's a little bit of vacillating about like, that sounds so vain. Shouldn't it be? No, like maybe it is sitting and reading a book for an hour or however,
Mhm.
like this, like accessing that really feel good thing
Yeah.
that one knows that's of benefit and provides like a reconnection and a return to oneself.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that self-care is a real piece. What about you? Do you have any sort of
Yeah.
thoughts about, yeah, where
Yeah,
you
I
send
think that
folks?
it's like some of the same things that like just that you're saying, like that reprioritizing of you and working that in. And I know it's tricky within kind of balancing and like
Yeah,
sometimes getting partners to understand how important these pieces are and
yeah,
allowing that person to prioritize that. Um, I know like couples therapy is a wonderful space just to have that relationship reconnection and also like negotiate some of these things to kind
yes,
of figure out for folks what are needs that people have and what are wants
yeah,
and being able to kind of really like balance those pieces out.
yeah,
So I think it is such, if you can like manage the childcare piece, being able to kind of prioritize that couple stuff to like feel like you're caring and nurturing both parties within the family. I think that's so helpful.
yeah,
I think that connection part is so huge because I think so much of it is like losing self and losing like being able to be seen and acknowledged.
yeah,
And there's so many communities out there, and I think every birthing person out there needs to connect with somebody where you can like talk about your butthole with somebody, right? Like
yes,
I
right,
think that's important,
yes,
right? If you
yeah,
can't say I'm recovering these freaking
yeah,
hemorrhoids, blah, right?
yep,
And have someone else be like, yes, woman, or yes, man,
yeah,
or yes, whatever, right?
yes,
Like then it's like,
yes,
what, like that's what we need is to be seen in that way. Or like I was up at 2 a.m.,
mm,
sobbing because my nipples are bleeding, right? Like we
yes,
need those support. We need that
yeah,
awareness. I know the Mom's Mental Health Initiative is an amazing resource in Milwaukee that is
yeah,
great with connecting this population and has so many offerings out there or can connect with offerings that people have. I know there's going to be like a moms group coming out of TOSA Psych too, which is going to be phenomenal as
yeah,
well. And Dr. Jamie Camphouse, who's going to be the um, facilitator of that group, she's
yes,
going to be guest starring in our summer series
yeah,
too. So she'll
yeah,
be able to kind of speak to
on
some of
June
that
3rd.
too. Um,
Yes,
but the other thing too is just acknowledgement that this is hard.
yeah,
And then I think being able to like move feeling out. I know we've talked a lot about this in our collaborations, but like being able to sit with a feeling, acknowledge I'm sad or I'm feeling
yeah,
lost or I'm grieving myself or I'm
yes,
grieving my body, and then being able to
yes,
move that feeling through our body as opposed to like stuffing it down because it feels like we're a bad parent if we feel this way, or if we're not loving every moment of this, we're
right,
bad,
yeah,
so combating some of
yes,
that guilt, right?
yeah,
That parenting guilt, which is like I'm a human and I get to feel this. And parenting is a huge range of emotions from the highest highs to the absolute lowest lows, right?
yes,
Like
yes,
even as you move into toddlerhood, right? Like there's emotionally abusive like situations that come up with little toddlers,
yeah,
right? Like it's hard
yeah,
every single day.
yes,
So being
yeah,
able to
it's,
acknowledge that you get to have a feeling about a kid, screaming at you that you're the worst parent ever
oh,
because you're like
right,
actively trying to keep them from sticking their fingers in electrical sockets.
yes, or run across the street, yes,
Right.
yes, yep, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, and that all of these feelings like can even
Mm-hmm.
coexist, like, I remember like walking like stroller walk around the whatever the block and just being like, this is so amazing, what a funny amazing thing that just happened in my child's development, and this is the most inane moment of my life, like all of
Mm-hmm.
these things
Yeah.
sort of like together,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
all
two
of
things
it,
can be true thing is
yes,
just this
two
weird
things can be
experience of
true,
acknowledging and allowing those. So,
yeah,
really encouraging people to use the and, right, to
yeah,
validate
yeah,
themselves and also the experience that they're in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Another thing that I know, like, we're like right around time, but one
yeah,
of the things that I see all the time come into my office, and I just really want to like bring this in here too with you,
yeah,
is just how frequently it comes up where like one parent is acknowledging that there's another parent who's struggling in some way or
yes,
is on their phone way more or is way more short emotionally,
yeah,
or is leaning more into substances, and I get curious if there's any kind of general things that you want to speak to that or
yeah,
thoughts
yeah.
that you may have on that piece.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I see that a lot as well. And it makes sense because we're pretty with our person, we're pretty connected to what they are doing. And when they like quote unquote leave or at least numb out, withdraw, they're not available,
Mhm.
that can be so incredibly palpable to folks. And I want to offer that, um there is certainly no like pat answer that I would have for that because it is so very nuanced.
Mhm.
Um, and so I am so grateful for being able to send folks to support networks about that, peer support networks about that.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, spouses having sort of a real sit down about the thing can be helpful. And at the same time, I want to acknowledge that's like, also defenses are up,
Great.
and so sometimes it's not quite as accessible, and that can be even more lonely making. So
Mhm.
like in the case of substance abuse, having some sort of support. And I honestly, in these particular moments, yeah, having therapy, I think is like wonderful to get to have, to be able to, how do I be okay even when I'm, not as connected to my
Mhm.
person? There's wonderful groups out there for, if people like 12 step, there is Al-Anon,
Mhm.
which can be very helpful for
For
folks.
sure. Well,
So
I know
yeah, it's nuanced.
the nice piece that we can offer
Yeah.
too within at least our practice, it is being able to have someone with like in that like individual therapy space, and then
Yeah.
either like if I'm seeing like one parent being able to refer another parent to you, or even
Yeah.
like for the couple to see you, I think that's been such a beautiful thing that we can kind of work together and kind of help that family system along through this period as well. So I think that's a
Yeah.
really cool thing that I love that we have that and that our working relationship to be able to do that too.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll just
Yeah.
add, and a couple things I think are important for folks to hear, is that just like to know that like postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression doesn't just affect the birthing person, that's
Right.
so important to acknowledge because you have another parent who is also going through diminished sleep patterns, um, different shifting patterns in, what they're doing, all the guilt feelings of not
Yeah.
necessarily knowing what to do or not doing it right. And also kind of that extra piece too, that there isn't that like inherent like connection piece always that comes as well. And that can fuel a lot of that anxiety and depression piece too.
Yeah.
So just to kind of be aware of that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I feel like is always helpful too is like we can feel some resentment within a partnership when we see, maybe we're taking on more of the tasks because the other person is emotionally withdrawn. And I think just encouraging people to kind of approach that with compassion
Yeah.
and curiosity, I think can be so helpful of like, hey, I see you on your phone a lot more.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Or, I've noticed that you've been a little bit shorter lately. That doesn't quite seem like you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask what's up with that.
Yeah.
Just to open up those conversations can kind of bring some of the defensiveness down when it's like, hey, you're not doing this, or I'm having to do all of this, to lean in like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm your person. I've been with you through this and I'm seeing a stark shift in you. And like, I'm checking
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And I know that can be challenging to do too, because some people, especially non-birthing partners don't necessarily want to bring it in because to the birthing person, they're doing this whole like physical recovery thing as well,
Yeah.
and may have like breastfeeding or things going on at the same
Oops.
time. So it's kind of like
Alrighty.
being able to kind of navigate that, but that can be a way where if you have that open communication within a partnership, it can be something that can help. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's so
It
nuanced.
is.
Individual and couples therapy can really be a beautiful place to kind of
Yeah.
allow for some support with that. And I know there's amazing groups out there too.
Yeah.
And I know we're happy to kind of give any referrals and recommendations to folks who may be watching this now or after the
Yeah.
fact, if that
Yeah.
feels like it'd be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things actually that you were touching on there, Tracy, like with your language switch from like, hey, I'm noticing that this is coming up more. It's a
Mm-hmm.
much softer start than like,
Yes.
what are you doing on your phone? And I
Mm-hmm.
want to I want to acknowledge that like being able to access that like wise mind, as they say in DBT, and some of the like the that wise voice too. I want to like honor and acknowledge that that does take some down regulation, like
Totally.
in terms of, because it is when we are that our bodies, our minds are so stressed out in the early parenting
Mm-hmm.
time. It is, we are shorter. We are quicker to fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
And so I want to just say that's some skillful language you just
Right.
put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And how much effort that takes
For
when we are just like feeling real
for
snappy.
sure. And I know later in this summer series we have a whole thing on down
Yeah.
regulation. So tune into that one. I know we'll be back in 2 weeks
Right.
to chat a little bit more, right?
Yes. Oh, I think that one I am not at, but
Okay, so
Dr.
then 2 weeks
Campos?
out is going to be kind of the next kind of stage up, and that's going to
Yes.
be with Dr. Jamie Camphouse talking about some of the micro traumas that can come from just pregnancy and birthing, which I think is going to be really cool because I don't know many people who
Oh,
have had like a super straightforward pregnancy and birth. So just being able to kind of join that and have some validation within that, I'm really looking forward to that talk with
yeah.
Dr. Jamie. She's phenomenal, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to have her on
Yeah.
while you're
That will
off
be
doing
great.
whatever you're gonna do.
Right? I have someone turning 16 in my life that day.
Perfect.
Someone I birthed. So
Excellent.
yeah. So I look forward to like watching that on the after and seeing you too. So that'll be a great
Yes,
topic. So
I'm so excited for this series, and I'm excited to
yes.
talk more throughout the summer.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is great.
awesome.
Thank you
Well,
all for tuning in
yes,
and yeah, keep it coming.
yeah, absolutely. And if anyone out there is looking for um, therapy at all, I know that we offer 15-minute
Yep.
consultations to see if either of us are a good fit for what you're looking to do. You can always book that through our website, and there's a link in the bio
Yeah.
um, to schedule that too. So if
Yeah.
anyone needs anything else or referrals or has any topics that they want us to cover within the series, feel free to shoot it out. Otherwise, the schedule is in earlier posty things.
Yes.
Clearly, I'm not super tech savvy,
Yeah.
but hopefully you get what I'm saying. But otherwise, we will see you in 2 weeks with
Yes.
Dr. Jamie, and we will go from there.
All righty. Bye, Tracy. Have a good night.
Awesome. See you.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.